In this video, we're going to look at using the WPscan tool to identify WordPress vulnerabilities. WPscan is a command line-based security scanner that's specifically aimed at evaluating WordPress websites. We can use this tool to help find vulnerabilities in the core files of WordPress, its themes, and its plugins. It does this by scanning for known vulnerabilities in WordPress versions, scanning the themes and plugins in WordPress versions, performing user enumeration on WordPress sites, performing password brute force attacks, and through security configuration audits. The tool also has API integration available and has its vulnerability database regularly updated. WPscan is a Ruby-based tool, so on our platform, we're going to need to make sure we have Ruby installed before we can run the tool. In this case, we're going to be using a Linux shell on a Windows system, and to install Ruby and WPscan, I'm going to use the following commands. First, I'm going to use sudo apt update. Then I'm going to run the command sudo apt install ruby-full. And now I'm going to run the command sudo gem install WPscan. Now, WPscan should be installed and ready on our system. We can verify that by running the command wpscan --version. And it tells us that the current version is 3.8.27. We could also run wpscan -h, and this gives us the help output for the WPscan tool. It gives us the usage along with a list of flags and their description that we can pass to the command line. Now, let's try using WPscan to perform a basic scan against a WordPress instance. In this case, I have a WordPress instance running on localhost at port 8080, so that's going to be the target of our scan. To get started, we'll type in the command WPscan. Then we're going to pass the flag --URL. And if we scroll to the top of the help output, we can see that the description for this flag of --URL is the URL of the blog to scan. And then it gives us some more information telling us the allowed protocols are HTTP and HTTPS, default protocol, if none provided, is HTTP, and that this option is mandatory unless update or help or HH or version is /r supplied. And the value we're going to pass to that flag is http:// localhost:8080. Then we're going to pass --disable-tls-checks. And if we scroll to that flag in the help output, we can see the description for this flag is that it disables SSL/TLS certificate verification and downgrade to TLS 1.0+, and hit enter. And WPscan has now scanned our WordPress instance. So let's scroll to the top of the output and go through it and see what it did. We can see that the first thing that the WPscan tool did is update its own database. So it's performing this scan with the most up-to-date database it can have. Then we can see the URL that we specified as its target and the date and time when it started. Then we have an interesting findings section. And this is where we're going to see all of the findings that the WPscan tool found. We can see that it was able to enumerate the headers on our WordPress site. XML RPC seems to be enabled, which during a penetration test could direct us towards some vulnerabilities we might try to exploit with the site. It found a README at localhost 8080/readme.html, and oftentimes we can use READMEs to get crucial information about a service. The external WP-cron service seems to be enabled at this address, which means the service could be vulnerable to a DDoS attack. We found the version of WordPress that's running on the application, which is a good way for us to research what vulnerabilities are actually going to be applicable to this particular WordPress instance. And we would be particularly interested if this WordPress version was significantly out of date. Then it found the WordPress theme in use, which is also important because WordPress themes can have inherent vulnerabilities associated with them as well. It then tried to enumerate all the plugins via passive methods, and no plugins were found on this WordPress site. Then it enumerated config backups using both passive and aggressive methods, and no config backups were found. And then it tells us that no API token was given, so no vulnerability data has been output. But we can get a free API token with 25 daily requests by registering at this URL. And then we have some summary metadata about the scan. So let's try running that same scan, but this time providing it with an API token and seeing how the results differ. Once again, I'm starting with WPscan --URL and my localhost :8080. And now I'm going to pass the flag --API-token, followed by the API token value, and hitting enter. And we can see that this time there's no warning about a missing API key, and we have a WPscan DB API OK. Our plan is free, and 2 requests were done during the scan with 23 requests remaining. So this means that I've used my 2 out of 25 requests for the day. Now, let's try to perform a brute force attack on this website using WPscan. Starting with our same base command of WPscan --URL localhost 8080, I'm going to give it a username that I want to try to brute force, in this case admin, by passing the flag $U admin $P, followed by the path to my word list, which is wordlist.txt, and hitting enter. And we can see in the output, it tried to perform a password attack on XLMRPC against one user, trying admin, but no valid passwords were found. So let's try another user. And this time we'll try the demo user. And here we can see it tried to perform the same password attack, and we have success with demo and demo. So it found a valid combination for username and password with a username of demo and a password of demo. So this is how we can perform brute force attacks on WordPress sites using WPscan as well. If your penetration test involves specifically a WordPress application, then WPscan can be a very valuable tool to have when performing that penetration test.